and welcome back to Football Made Simple. Chelsea and Manchester United took centre stage in the Premier League as Solskjaer and Lampard put their wits against each other. Both teams will be hoping to end up near the top of the table come the end of the season, but in this game, the final score was 0-0, with both teams struggling to regularly create chances. The XG indicated United created slightly better chances, but nothing overwhelming. The XG time map also suggested that United were the more consistent threat, but without much high-quality chances. But what tactics did both managers use? Let's take a look. A quick reminder of the formations used by both sides, as seen on the OneFootball app. OneFootball will get you match updates, formation updates, as well as player and team stats, and so much more. And the best part is, you can get it absolutely free through the sponsored link in the description below. Let's start with what Chelsea did in possession. For the most part, Chelsea looked to build up short through their centre-backs whenever possible, and United had a few different ways of countering this defensively. At times they looked to keep their front three compact in the centre of the pitch, and they would look to actively press the centre-backs. However, their primary aim was to try and stop the wall into Chelsea's pivots, Jorginho and Kanté. Their willingness to sit off is shown with a high passes per defensive action of 22, showing that they weren't keen to press. They were quite effective in stopping this central progression, limiting Chelsea's central attacks to just 20%. In addition, Kanté and Jorginho only had the 5th and 6th most touches for the side. This central play was backed up by Fred and McTominay, who would look to push onto Chelsea's pivots. However, at times, Havertz in particular looked to take advantage of this by dropping into the half space to pick up the ball, as we can see in the average positioning. When he did get the ball in these zones, he often looked to pick out James, pushing up on the outside of him. However, in most scenarios, Fred was disciplined in tracking him in this zone, and Fernandes could look to sit deeper on the man. So the wide regions were the solution for Chelsea, and the left in particular looked dangerous. Whenever Chilwell got onto the ball, if Mata was central preventing progression, Wan-Bissaka could cover ground quickly to apply the pressure. This naturally created space out wide that Pulisic would look to move into to receive the chip ball or the driven ball. When United were effective with their defensive shape, it would be McTominay who would move into the wide region to cover, whilst his man was covered either by Mata's cover shadow or Fernandes dropping deeper. This allowed the centre-back to deal with any central threat. But when McTominay couldn't make up the ground, it meant one of the centre-backs would have to come across on the cover, shifting the entire backline. Havertz would then be able to move into space here, and he could get onto the ball to look to create, whilst James moved outside of him. But as the game rolled on, United's wingers started wider in the defensive shape to cover the wing-backs, and once the ball was played into a wide centre-back, they looked to use a curved run to both press the man on the ball, whilst covering the wing-back behind them, which they managed to do efficiently at times. So the switch of play became crucial to Chelsea's build-up, often shifting the team to the right-hand side early on, drawing United across. Chilwell would then look to push high up the pitch and receive the switch, and was soon joined by Werner or Pulisic, effectively going over the defensive block instead of trying to go through it. The mechanism was slightly different when they were overloaded on the left, as instead of going direct to James, Azpilicueta often pushed high into the right half space, and quick rotations allowed him to receive the ball. But once again, the key to United's defensive solidity was the work rates of Fred and McTominay, as they were consistently out to cover these regions whenever there was the potential of an overload. Now, what did United look to do with their 50% possession? United also looked to build out short through the centre-backs whenever possible. And Chelsea were also passive in their press, with a high passes per defensive action of 14. This could have been because, on the rare occasions when they did press, they often encountered problems with Fernandes either dropping behind the midfield line for a dangerous pass, or dropping deeper to be the extra man to help break the press. So, by sitting off, Havertz and Pulisic could stay narrower to try and prevent this overload. But the wide areas were where United looked to have the natural overload, so they often looked to find the fullbacks, both of whom were in the top 3 for touches for the team. The majority of their play came down the left-hand side in particular, with Shaw often getting on the ball. To maintain solidity in the centre, it was often Reece James tasked with springing forward on the press, and the back 5 would quickly shift to a back 4 to deal with the danger. And on the right hand side, Mata would often look to occupy the half space to leave Wan-Bissaka 1 vs 1 on the outside, although Chelsea would push a centre back high to deal with this threat. But much like Chelsea, United struggled with creativity high up, even after bringing on Cavani and Pogba. Rashford, now playing wide left, often looked to get on the end of longer balls over the top, but could never get the decisive touch. Overall, both managers will be pleased with the defensive element of the game, but not creating any clear-cut opportunities will be a concern for them. But what did you make of the match? Why did neither side find that spark in the final third? Drop it down in the comments below. And if you want to watch an upcoming tactical analysis of El Clasico, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification to be amongst the first to watch it. And if you want early access to even more content, consider checking out my Patreon at patreon.com/footballmadesimple. You'll get early access to videos, exclusive videos, and more, whilst helping to support the channel. But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.